The Broken Blueprint, Part 3, Events in 1912. The 1912 Initial Accreditation Request. Loma Linda did not need accreditation and should not have requested it. Here is how it happened. Wilbur D. Salisbury, business manager at Loma Linda, went to Chicago in 1912 and told Dr. Colwell that CME was hard at work, trying to obtain an approval rating by the AMA. Colwell was astonished, for he had been impressed with his 1911 conversation with Elder Burden and recognized that they needed no such rating in order to do the work given them by their God. Norwood says it well. Some months later, back in his Chicago office, Dr. Colwell scribbled a memo in pencil that a man named Salisbury, probably Wilbur D. Salisbury, business manager of Loma Linda Sanitarium in 1912, had called at Colwell's office and reported that the college was going ahead with plans for an approved school. After the interview, Colwell added that laconic note, "They have gone and done what I told them not to." W. Frederick Norwood, M.D., Division Bold, page 193. Recollections by Frieda Rubenstein. The following story by Rita Rubenstein is significant. It may be that some wonder just how our medical work became involved with the American Medical Association and the Association of American Medical Colleges, etc. There were some incidents that were related to me by a niece of Elder John Burden, founder of Loma Linda. At the time, I was a guest in the home of elderly brother and sister Lowell Weeks, now deceased. Sister Weeks was in the first graduating class of Loma Linda and an excellent masseuse, expert in massage, and hydrotherapist. Since I was ill at the time, I appreciated Sister Weeks' skill in this area and often asked her about her early training at Loma Linda. Since Elder Burden was her uncle, she often used to relate incidents of interest in its pioneer days. One time I asked Sister Weeks how our medical work became involved with AMA, which is a secular organization. She then related the following incidents to me. Around the family dinner table at which Sister Weeks sat with her Uncle Burden, the story of the first steps of SDA collaboration with the AMA unfolded. When, on several occasions, church leaders came to Sister White for counsel, she objected. When the AMA leaders persisted with their requirements, the brethren came again to Ellen White for counsel. She warned Adventists that if we joined them, we would be forming a confederacy with them, and that in no case would we join any worldly confederacy. Eventually, the brethren came back to Sister White again for counsel, and, after listening to what they had to say, she arose, quietly left their presence, went into her room, and shut the door behind her. Elder Burden said that sometime after one of those meetings, a few church leaders decided to fully conform to the AMA requirement to earn their recognition. Frieda Rubenstein, statement dated September 1973, quoted in David Lee, Stories of the Early College of Medical Evangelists, pages 135 to 136. So much light had early been given to our leaders, yet here they were asking for more. Why the giving of light ceased. One might wonder why Ellen White did not stop our leaders from taking this terrible step. She had repeatedly instructed and warned them in earlier years, but without success. By 1912, she was in very poor health and busy working on her last books. But there was also another reason. Here you are crying before God, in the anguish of your souls, for more light. I am authorized from God to tell you that not another ray of light through the testimonies will shine upon your pathway until you make a practical use of the light already given. The Lord has walled you about with light, but you have not appreciated the light, you have trampled upon it. While some have despised the light, others have neglected it or followed it, but indifferently. A few have set their hearts to obey the light which God has been pleased to give them. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, page 606. Although written decades earlier, the following statement sounds like a prophecy of what happened to Loma Linda. Some that have received special warnings through testimony have forgotten in a few weeks the reproof given. The testimonies to some have been several times repeated, but they have not taught them of sufficient importance to be carefully heeded. They have been to them like idle tales. Had they regarded the light given, they would have avoided losses and trials which they think are hard and severe. They have owned themselves to censor. They have placed upon their own necks a yoke which they find grievous to be borne. It is not the yoke which Christ has borne upon them. God's care and love were exercised in their behalf, but their selfish, evil, unbelieving souls could not discern his goodness and mercy. They rush on in their own wisdom until, overwhelmed with trials and confused with perplexity, they are ensnared by Satan. When you gather up the rays of light which God has given in the past, then will he give an increase of light. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, pages 606 to 607. God has revealed to me that we are in positive danger of bringing into our educational work the customs and fashions that prevail in the schools of the world. If the teachers are not guarded, they will place on the necks of their students worldly yokes instead of the yoke of Christ. The plan of the schools we shall establish in these closing years of the message is to be of an entirely different order from those we have instituted. EGW, Counsels to Teachers, page 532, written 1908. If you will do the work for yourselves which you know that you ought to do, then God will help you when you need help. You have left undone the very things which God has left for you to do. You have been calling upon God to do your work. Had you followed the light which he has given you, then he would cause more light to shine upon you. But while you neglect the counsels, warnings, and reproofs that have been given, how can you expect God to give you more light and blessings to neglect and despise? God is not as man. He will not be trifled with. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, pages 604 to 605.